The Letter Opener by Franklyn Cowell of Artarmon 2064. Narrated by David Tredinnick. The tension in our township of Kurri Kurri grew with each passing day. Since the mid-50s, there had been talk of the mine closing down as mechanisation took over and jobs were being lost. Then it happened. Although anticipated, when the Stanford main pit closed in 1957, it was sudden, like an unexpected death in the family. I was 12 at the time, and when I arrived home from school one afternoon, I found the old man sitting on the veranda, clasping his hands firmly between his knees, rocking back and forth, eyes shut tight. My father wouldn't have been more than 40, but to a 12-year-old, anyone over the age of 30 was definitely considered old. "What's wrong, Dad?" I murmured, knowing that my father had been laid off and sensing that he was in pain, but not knowing what else to say. "It's not looking good, my boy," he sighed. "We'll just have to tighten our belts some more." But how much more, I thought. His wages were barely sufficient to put food on the table and pay the rent. As my father's gloom deepened over the weeks, I felt the world squeezing in around us. Then, one day, I spied the postie through our kitchen window. It was strange to see him stop by our house, for it had been ages since we had received any mail. "Look, Dad, we've got a letter," I sang out cheerfully, hoping that my father's spirits would have been lifted with this news. "Great, Mr. Letter Opener. Now, why don't you run along and do your thing?" I loved it when he addressed me like that, for it meant that I could access his precious antique scrimshaw letter opener, the one with the slim, tempered steel blade and a handle made of whalebone, with a tall ship and a spouting whale finely etched on it. I carefully slit the envelope open and handed it to him. "It's from your grandma," is all he said, slipping the letter back into its envelope. "What does it say? Is she coming to visit us?" "Nothing. It says absolutely nothing." My disappointment must have shown through because my father offered me the letter to see for myself. Although the envelope was addressed to him, the single sheet of paper inside was as white as snow. "Why didn't Grandma write anything on it? Did she forget?" I asked, confused but also a trifle irritated. My father looked at me in a strange, calm manner, and I could tell from his expression that something was going on in his head. "No, son. Your grandma didn't forget," he said at length. "In fact, she's telling me all that I need to know. This blank sheet of paper is the rest of my life. I need to write my own story, chart my own destiny. That is her message to me." Grandma understood that my father needed to pick himself up, dust himself off, and start afresh. She didn't use words to advise him. She used something far more powerful. A blank sheet of paper. While his mood brightened somewhat after securing a job in a quaint little bookstore, I, on the other hand, found myself in a dark place. Dealing with his issues had left a mark in my own life. My school grades suffered. I felt drained of energy and had to force myself out of bed each morning. Even my friends seemed to be deserting me because of our unfortunate economic circumstances. Then one day, he handed me a sealed envelope and did something amazing. He gifted me his beautiful scrimshaw letter opener. "I've learned something from your grandma," he said. "Now it's your turn." Even though I knew the envelope contained a spotless white sheet of paper, I opened it anyway, with my father watching me all the while. We locked eyes, nodded our heads. A smile was given, and a smile received. Over the years, there were many occasions when things didn't turn out the way I intended. And through all those years, my father was always there to support me. Each time I received a letter from him, I knew that it simply contained a blank sheet of paper. But my trusty scrimshaw letter opener was always close at hand to slit it open. That piece of paper was enough encouragement for me to remember that a new day lay ahead of me, filled with all sorts of possibilities. I just needed to continue creating my own story with the gifts that were bestowed on me every single day. History has a habit of repeating itself, or more precisely, of teaching us that the lessons of the past must be remembered and applied constantly if we are to improve our lot in this life. And that is why, after more than 60 years, today I decided to relinquish my most precious possession, my scrimshaw letter opener, to my teenage granddaughter, Xanthi. I could see the daily struggles she faced, growing up in a single-parent family, always looking out for her 2 younger siblings, being frowned upon at school for not owning the latest fashion accessory or mobile phone. Through all of this, she appeared to be a well-adjusted soul, but my experienced eye could detect the little cracks emerging. In her, I saw my 12-year-old self battling to make sense of a world losing its innocence all too quickly, feeling disappointed, angry even, and powerless to take control of my young life. That is, until my dear grandmother, in her wisdom, started a tradition that, I'm sure, will be passed on for generations to come. I took a crisp, clean sheet of A4 paper, neatly folded it, and placed it in an envelope. This afternoon I left it on her pillow, with my beautiful scrimshaw letter opener resting on top. Xanthi will know what to do, just as I had done, and my father before me. The end.